What is hampering South Africa's economic growth? And what can be made of Moody's threat to cut the ratings of the country's 5 state-owned firms? How do political decisions impact the economy? And how does Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan represent white capital? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. As South Africa marks 22 years of democracy, questions continue to emerge on how long will it take to translate political freedom into economic freedom. Recently, Black First, Land First National Co-ordination Committee resolved to undertake a national campaign to defend the country's sovereignty. They also agreed to advance the struggle for the economic liberation of the country's black majority. Government spending and state firms incurring losses rather than making profit has become a contentious issue. Meanwhile, ratings agency Moody's has warned that it could cut the ratings of 5 state-owned firms, including Eskom, as a result of funding risks. But to what extent do political decisions impact the economy? We are live. You can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial 089-1104-210. My guest today, Prince Mashele, is from the Center for Politics and Research. He's joined by Andile Mgutama, Black First, Land First leader. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, you had my question, Prince, the very first one. Perhaps let me just start with you there. What, in your opinion, as a researcher, is impacting or impacts the growth of South Africa's economy?
Well, there are many things, but politics is certainly one of the factors. So if you have a situation in a country where the political governance is in a mess, as we are now in South Africa, the investment community don't want to invest in a country where they don't know whether it is coming or it is going. So the likelihood is that they will withhold their investments. That's number one. Number two, if you have a political leadership that takes decisions that are reckless, you are likely going to see people with money withdrawing their money. And we saw that in December last year when President Jacob Zuma fired Minister Nhlanhla Nene. The economy lost more than 500 billion rand because of that reckless decision. But there are many, many other things. So I was just answering the question with regard to how politics impact on the economy, and we can go on and on.
Well, let's perhaps look at specifics. In this case, in the case of South Africa, what do you think is impacting?
Look, it's not politics alone.
Yeah,
South Africa is a minerals-based economy, right? In other words, our exports in the main come from the mineral sector.
Yes.
So when you have, for example, the price of commodities going down internationally, which is not determined here in South Africa, it's determined globally, South Africa will be impacted. The economy of South Africa will be impacted. Okay. Number two, if the global economy generally is depressed, right? South Africa being integrated into that system, it means that our local economy will also be depressed. If there's a generalized atmosphere of job losses internationally, we will also feel the pinch. For example, in 2008, 2009, when there was a financial crisis globally,
yes,
South Africa was not spared, although we didn't actually suffer like other Western countries that were so exposed, because our legislation is stronger than some of the Western countries. Yes. So those are some of the things that affect our economy. But the other thing is, if you look at South Africa's economic growth, there's also a question of skills, right? If you compare South Africa and China, China is growing faster because, one, they have a bigger market in terms of population. Number two, they have a better skills pool, which you don't have. So if you look at the South, we actually have competitors who are members of BRICS, who are actually competing for the same investment that we are competing for.
Andile, same question. You obviously coming from a socialist school of thought. what would you say is impacting South Africa's economic growth?
It is true that the big problem is that we are linked into the global economy, which is a capitalist economic system, which is collapsing.
Yes.
Europe is in trouble. Latin America is in trouble. But so the owners of these economies are starting either wars or regime changes to basically get to a point where they can make more profits by accumulation. So in Brazil, for instance, they have in fact, the BRICS countries come under attack from these Western, traditional imperialist countries. We know that they're finished with Brazil. I see Moody saying here they're going to downgrade Eskom. It's part of what we call economic terrorism, which is part of the first step towards the political destabilization, to remove presidents or leaders which are linked to the BRICS process. Why is that? BRICS is threatening the interests of the World Bank and IMF, which have been controlling the world as long as we know. And they have messed up Africa, they've messed up the world. Now, they don't want BRICS to come in and provide us with the possibility for alternative access to money, which will not be colonial. So, my advice would be, and this is what we are saying, we need to de-link from this system, build an alternative system. And in our country today, we believe that President Zuma has been targeted precisely because he's looking east instead of looking west. We can rescue ourselves, but we can't do it through this economic system that was implemented by Thabo Mbeki, who, by the way, Prince Mashele used to work for, and his attacks about bad governance come from his former leader having lost a job. We say President Zuma is doing something right by looking east, but what he needs to do is to make sure that it is for the nation's a benefit, not this idea that perhaps he's doing it for his family and so on. There is no other alternative. The alternative is to look east, defend the BRICS, make sure that it's anti-imperialist, and then in South Africa, we can't avoid a radical transformation of the economy.
Well, you see, this I don't come at it from an ideological point of view. I'm not an ideologue, so it's okay to be an ideologue. But I just need to teach him a bit of reality. He says South Africa must look east. But the east that he's talking about is doing business with the west. If you were to look at, read Dan Paulson's book, right, on the collapse of the economy and the kinds of frantic consultations that took place between the US government under Bush and the Chinese government, right? What you will see, in fact, by the way, Neil Ferguson has coined a concept called chimerica. This is an American scholar, right? Top American scholar who has studied the links between the American economy and the Chinese economy. And the evidence is, actually, America was saved by China when it was in trouble financially. Now, a person like Andile, who says, look east, does not know how the global economy works. Number two, you can't de-link. This thing about de-linking, is, you can sit here and say de-linked, right? Where are you going to sell your mineral resources, right? If you say you're going to sell to China, right? If China says, fine, we have enough, we're not going to buy from you, where are you going to sell? China sells to, by the way, China has just struck a deal, you saw it, with the British, right? They will build nuclear power stations in Britain. They went to France. They went to, Xi Jinping went to the US. That's where he says our country must not go. Those people he says we must look at are actually going exactly where he says we must not go.
But he says, I don't know economics. He doesn't have logic. He doesn't even listen to himself. If China is the East. China has rescued America, is rescuing Europe. Why shouldn't we strengthen our relations with China? Because China has a different logic from Western imperialism. Western imperialism is under threat. And we are saying strengthen China, strengthen Russia, India, Brazil, South Africa, have an alternative economy from our oppressors and those who stole our money in London. This brother must just look at a little bit of logic. Today, you look east to get a different and possibly decolonizing ways of doing economics.
Who has looked east and made it?
Well, America is, you just said America's economy was on its knees and it was rescued by the Chinese money, right? We in Africa today,
you know why?
We in Africa today have to engage China on our terms. China is it's not an imperialist colonizing force. And the same, in fact, I would argue with Russia. Russia is not colonized us. Russia gave us AK-47s to shoot our way into the state powers today. We can't afford this new liberal project of Thabo Mbeki, which has failed, which they're trying to rescue again. We had in this country growth, by the way, without jobs because of new liberal economic system. We are saying to President Zuma, do things differently, save the people, but you must nationalize.
Okay.
He's terrified of nationalization.
Okay, hold it there. Let me take John. John, you are in PE. Oh, Sean, rather.
No, this is Sean Mpo.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I didn't hear it properly. Sean, my apologies.
Yes.
You are in PE. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Mpo. Quickly, man.
Yes.
First of all, I don't know why do you always give this guy a platform. I've watched your show. I watch your show almost every afternoon after work, and you always have that guy there with beard. This guy, yes, I know his name is Andile.
Yes.
That guy, I don't know why are you giving him too much airtime. That guy protects Jacob Zuma. Okay. He knows why. I think the advice that I need to give him, he must first focus on his BLF, whatever he calls it, because he's only got 10 people. He jumps at each and every opportunity that he gets to get attention. The last time I checked, he wanted the public protector to lay charges to the money that was taken by white people before 1994. Now he jumps into Jacob Zuma. Each and every opportunity that he gets to be on the limelight, he jumps into it. He must just please focus on his BLF or whatever it is, or just sit down and do something else, because he's just chowing money. Nothing else that he does. He gets funds from the same people that he's supporting, and then he talks about people who get money from London, etc., etc. Why he also have his own people who are giving him money to defend them. So please, guys, Saudi must stop this propaganda of Jacob Zuma. Now, he gives this guy platform.
Sean, what has Saudi got to do with question time? Really?
You giving this guy
but
platform
Saudi is not
all
our
the time.
producer.
Why are you giving this guy a platform all the time?
Well,
This guy defended Saudi last week.
Okay.
He nearly got into a fight with some journalists because those guys were talking bad about Saudi.
Okay, Sean, thank you very much. Well, there are people out there who think you really don't deserve to be on that chair.
Well, in South Africa, there are maybe two main perspectives. People who go in with white capital, and those of us who say we must expropriate white capital. And we are saying also, at this point in time, we have looked at the presidents. President Zuma is under attack. In fact, some of us were terrified by what happened in Brazil. A democratically elected president was removed, right, by corrupt people claiming to fight against corruption. The same modus operandi is applying in South Africa. Same opposition parties who get their instructions from London, same civil society organizations saying there's corruption, and to reorganize, make sure that white capital is not part of the conversation. You look at this Brado's calling. He doesn't want us to demand 26 billion stolen by white people.
Okay. Dougie, you are in the VAR.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Dougie.
I need to say my say today. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Because that Andeli that you got, I agree with Sean. They shouldn't allow him on SABC 3. Because he's a little, I don't know, he's a terrorist. We should have him banned to Robben Island. That's what we should do with him, because he's too clever for his own good. He hasn't even looked at Venezuela or Zimbabwe. Look at those countries, and now he wants to come and mess South Africa up. What a bloody rubbish is this? I'm sorry, I don't mean to swear, but that this guy is talking to us. Yeah, that other guy with the blue shirt, he's talking sense.
Okay.
But that other little guy, you can chase him away because he's got no sense. He's too clever for his own good. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's talking a lot of rubbish, and he needs some toilet paper to wipe all that rubbish off his face.
Okay, Daggy, it's fine. It's fine. We must hear opposing views. Prince, let me bring you in here. You know, I asked the question, and you guys are talking Britain, you're talking America, China. I'm talking about the problems here in South Africa. What is the problem?
Look, he keeps on touching on the problem, Andile, and I think we must give him credit for that, because he has identified the problem. He says it's President Jacob Zuma. That is the focal point of his campaign. He thinks that Jacob Zuma is under attack. Jacob Zuma is not under attack by anybody. Jacob Zuma is well advanced down the road of self-destruction, right? This is the guy, right, on his home. More than 200 million South African rands of taxpayers' money was spent, and he said he didn't know, right? This is the same guy who was found by the Constitutional Court to have violated the Constitution, right? Currently, as we speak, Jacob Zuma operates outside the Constitution because he has violated it, right? This is the guy who has cost our country more than 500 billion. Workers have lost money, right, in pension funds because of a reckless decision that was taken by Jacob Zuma. Now, Jacob Zuma is a big liability to this country. This is the man that Andile is defending.
Okay. Yeah, you see, it's very interesting. We have opened a criminal case, by the way, against the people who attacked the economy last December. They have done a regime change. They've captured the state. Of course, Johan Rupert and all these white people have always captured the state. I'm saying.
Don't point at me.
No, you don't know this. Of course, you read it and you don't want to recognize it. They have gone to the ANC. We know this. And they have said you must fire Van Rooyen and hire Pravin. Now, this is the problem. Pravin whom? When we look at his interest, the same people who went to the ANC and said they want Pravin, he has shares in their companies. If this is not a conflict of interest, we don't know what it is. But the same people like Johan Rupert stole from the Reserve Bank. The 26 billion that some people don't want us to talk about is money stolen just before the end of apartheid. And Johan Rupert and his father are implicated. The report is there. Thabo Mbeki knows. The public protector is running with it because we are insisting that must happen.
Okay.
So really, I mean, we don't understand what this protection of white capital is about.
How does Zuma come in? I mean, he's talking about Rupert and many other things. We're talking about Zuma, who has spent more than 200 million on his...
This guy, court said pay 8... The same court said it's not 250 million that he must pay. He must pay back 8 million, about 7.9.
That's not the court that said, though.
It was determined. It was said, go and determine it. And Treasury, which hates Zuma, by the way, because Zuma did not, he did not employ Pravin, said it is at that level. Zuma went and, I say we must praise him. He went to a small black-owned bank and got that loan. And, and for us, it's a very big step forward because all these banks rob our people, keep us in debt, and in fact poor, except for a few, I suppose.
Okay, let's take Ayanda. Ayanda, you are in KZN.
Paul, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call, Ayanda.
And good evening to the two gentlemen that you have today. Look, Paul, I think what is going to rescue this country from a serious political downfall is actually changing the government leadership or the political leadership that you have in this country. Firstly, let me also support these two gentlemen that formed on the line earlier about not bringing Andile the next time here on the show, because Andile is being opportunistic with all...
Whoa, Ayanda, we really didn't cut you off. We would have loved to hear what you wanted to say.
But isn't it interesting that Democrats don't want to hear voices that disagree with her? This is fascism. I mean, I listen to this guy every day in other, competing studios, and I was surprised that you guys allowed him in because this man, he's known for being anti-Zuma completely, in his writing. So it shows that there's some democracy here, but people say voices like myself must not be heard. This is completely a fascist, anti-democratic sentiment. Why? Because we want white people to bring back the land. We want to take back the economy. We want white corruption to be taken care of. In a narrative that is dominant in South Africa,
is black people you do not want
are the only ones who are corrupt.
Well, I didn't say Andile must be banned. I'm a Democrat, so give Andile as much as platform as he can. He will destroy himself. You can hear callers are watching at home. They have been following him. They've said nothing about me that you shouldn't call me. So callers are very intelligent people. But we're not talking about Andile here.
Yes.
We're talking about the problems of the country. Here is where we are as a country. If you are a right-thinking South African today, and you're concerned about the future of this country, you are not sure whether this country is going or whether it's coming. We have a terrible leadership. The center is not holding. You have a situation where you have a minister who issues a statement, right, purporting to be representing cabinet. The next morning, that minister is reprimanded by the president. And the statement from the presidency says he was speaking in his personal capacity. As you sit there, Mpo, you no longer know whether a government letterhead is worth what it is called. Because ministers are speaking past each other. Cyril Ramaphosa, the deputy president, has told us, the nation, that we have a government here that is at war with itself. Now, if you have Andile sitting here trying to justify all of this mess, you must suspect that either Andile has been bought or something's not wrong, it's not right with him.
Mahlodi, you are in Ekurhuleni. Welcome.
Well, yeah, I'm still listening to this. You see the guy in the blue shirt?
Yes.
That guy is on point. Andile, my man, you are an opportunist. They are a very opportunist. You want every opportunity that arises. You wanted it in the EFF. Somebody bribed you with money. You fabricated stories of Malema. Now we are busy with Tutumiene. We all know that Tutumiene flopped. And now even Jacob Zuma. You need to get your story right. Or you wanna go back to Parliament maybe. Zuma, you want Zuma to give you some position or something? Man, we have a terrible leadership in South Africa. They need to accept that. Otherwise, this country is going to go to the wolves. We need to get a wake up, face the reality. Zuma has violated the constitution. Zuma has not taken this country to where we thought. Look at people at the ground. We living in the township. We got nothing. Kulubuse Zuma owns billions, everything. Now you want to tell us that story of Zuma taking loan from VSP. It's PR stand, my man. Zuma.
Okay, Mahlodi, your line as well. I really want us to move away from you and deal with the issues here.
Yeah.
You know, that we're hearing this white capital story every day. How much of a factor is it in our lives? Am I unable to afford certain things in my life today because of this white capital?
In the campaign, we say hands off Zuma, economic liberation now. That is our campaign. We ask a simple question: who owns Pick and Pay? Who owns ShopRite Checkers? Who owns all these places that we get our food from, or basics?
Yes.
All of them are white owned. Black people in this country only own about 3% of the JSE. When it comes to land, 35,000 white families own 80% of the land, right? So that is the problem. So our argument is a simple one. Last time they said remove Mbeki, and we all went and removed Mbeki. Now they say remove Zuma. We all going there. We are saying, wait, this political process, it's keeping us busy and away from dealing with the real questions. The real questions here is a colonial structure of the economy. Let's go there, deal with white capital, and then our people will live better.
Chris, very quickly, you are in Lydenburg.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for the call. Quickly, Chris, we run after. We've
okay.
Really
I
run out of
think
time.
Today's show was a bit disorganized. I think the guys are really abusing the platform. But what I can say is that I don't think the South African economy can be solved by merely moving Zuma out of the seat of power.
Okay.
It's more complex than that. So I think the guys, they should have delved into the solution instead of just personality attacking each other there on the show. It didn't help us as the viewers today. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks very much. Indeed, let's look at that question which is asked as we wrap up.
Okay, here is the challenge for the South African economy, especially as it affects black people. You must have a massive process of producing skills among black people. And I'm talking here 21st century high-tech skills.
Yes.
If you look at the countries that are making good economic progress in the world, in the South, countries like South Korea, the so-called Southeast Asian tigers, right? And you look at what is it that enables them to make progress. It's skills, investment in skills, right? It is production, manufacturing of high-tech commodities that you can sell all over the world. When you drive around South Africa, you see Hyundai, right?
Yes.
That car. It's made in South Korea. We South Africans must make our own cars. We must make our own cell phones that we sell all over the world, right? That is the biggest thing. Number two, it's finance. You need to give finance to black people to start their own and run their own factories. Right?
Okay. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I know your campaign is...
Hands off Zuma, economic liberation now. You can't do these things without the land question being addressed first.
Okay.
We are landless. How can we have this high-tech stuff you're talking about?
Okay.
You can do it without Zuma.
That was question time for today. From me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. Ibe Khotso.